Thunder cracked across the dark sky as 38-year-old Ryan Carter pounded on the heavy oak door, soaked to the bone, duffel bag slung over his shoulder. The for sale sign beside the porch was half buried in snow. His breath came out in white clouds as he whispered to himself, "Just one night. I just need one night." When the door creaked open, the warm light spilled out, and standing there was Claire Matthews, the CEO of Horizon Tech, dressed in a cashmere sweater and disbelief. But before either could speak, two little girls rushed past her legs, screaming, "Uncle Ryan!" and threw their arms around him. The man who had lost everything finally found something that felt like home again. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. The cold bit through Ryan Carter's jacket like it wanted to eat through his bones. The snowstorm had followed him for miles, turning the world into a blur of white and silence. He could barely feel his hands as he clutched the strap of his worn duffel bag. Everything he owned after the foreclosure, the repossession, and the string of bad luck that had chased him since leaving the Marines. His boots crunched up the long driveway, past the iron gates that still carried the emblem of Horizon Tech, one of the biggest companies in the state. He had seen the mansion on magazine covers years ago, shiny, untouchable, a symbol of success he used to protect but never possess. He had no business being there, and yet his feet carried him to that door like fate had chosen it for him. When the wind nearly knocked him over, he lifted his fist and slammed it against the door, once, twice, 3 times. Each knock echoed like a heartbeat in the storm. He whispered under his breath, "Just one night. That's all I need. One night of warmth." The door opened slowly, and there she was, Claire Matthews. Early 30s, sharp eyes, posture straight as a ruler even in her sweater and leggings. She was the kind of woman people either feared or admired, nothing in between. The last time Ryan saw her was years ago, when her company had sponsored his Marine unit before deployment. Back then, she'd handed him a medal for valor. Now, her expression flickered from confusion to disbelief. "Ryan. Carter?" she breathed out, voice soft but shocked. He blinked through the snowflakes, clinging to his lashes. "I'm sorry to bother you, ma'am. I didn't know where else to go. The shelter downtown's full. I just need a place to stay tonight. I'll be gone by morning." Before she could respond, 2 little girls came running down the hallway, matching pajamas, bare feet padding against marble. They stopped dead when they saw him. Then, as if something deep inside recognized him, they sprinted straight toward him. "Uncle Ryan!" they shouted together, throwing their arms around his soaked jacket. He froze. The smell of their shampoo, the warmth of their small arms, it hit him like a memory he didn't know he still had. Claire stood speechless, hand hovering near her lips. "Girls, wait, how do you—" "They've seen his picture," came a new voice from behind her. A man in his late 60s stepped into view. Graying hair, kind eyes, cane in hand. Richard Matthews, Claire's late husband's father, and once Ryan's commanding officer. He served with their dad. They used to call him Uncle Ryan before we lost contact. Ryan swallowed hard. "Sir," he murmured, "didn't think you'd remember me." Richard smiled faintly. A man doesn't forget the one who dragged his son out of enemy fire. Silence filled the hallway. The storm outside howled against the windows, but inside, something shifted, a warmth that didn't belong to the fireplace. Claire crossed her arms, her guard snapping back into place. "You're saying this man was in the same unit as my late husband?" Yes, ma'am, Ryan said quietly. Daniel and I served together for 4 years. He was a brother to me. His voice cracked on the last word, the guilt slipping through before he could hide it. Richard looked at his daughter-in-law. Let the man in, Claire. He's earned it. Her jaw tightened. For a moment, she seemed ready to refuse. But then one of her daughters tugged her sleeve. Mommy, he looks cold. That broke her. With a resigned sigh, she stepped aside. Fine, but just for tonight. Ryan nodded. That's all I need. As he stepped inside, the warmth hit him like a wave. He didn't realize how close he'd been to collapse until his knees nearly buckled. Claire caught him by the arm, just for a second, and their eyes met. There was tension there, yes, but something else, too. Recognition. Bathroom's down the hall, she said briskly. You can dry off there. I'll have Mia bring you a towel. Thank you, he said softly, and meant it. As he walked away, Richard's voice followed him. You're welcome here, son. For as long as you need. Ryan stopped in the doorway. For a man who'd been called a failure, a drifter, and worse, those words meant more than any medal he'd ever received. In the reflection of the hallway mirror, he caught Claire watching him, arms crossed, eyes unreadable. She didn't trust him, not yet. But as the little girls ran around laughing again, their giggles filling the silence that used to echo through the house, Ryan couldn't help but think, maybe he was exactly where he was meant to be. Steam fogged the bathroom mirror as Ryan stood staring at his reflection, a towel draped around his neck. The bruises under his eyes told stories no one wanted to hear. Stories of battles that weren't fought on foreign soil, but right here, in the quiet corners of his own life. Debt, loss, a father he couldn't be there for anymore. He gripped the edges of the sink, whispering to himself, Pull it together, Carter. Just one night. You're not here to fall apart. When he stepped out into the hall, the scent of roasted chicken and buttered rolls drifted toward him. His stomach twisted, not from hunger, but from the memory of the last time he'd sat at a table with people who cared. That was before the deployment, before his wife left with someone else while he was still overseas. The sound of laughter drew him into the kitchen. The girls were setting the table, chattering about Uncle Ryan and how he used to fight bad guys with Daddy. Claire stood at the counter, plating food, her movements sharp and controlled, like someone who'd built walls around herself and made sure no one ever climbed over. When she noticed him, her tone was polite but cold. I didn't think Marines took vacations in the middle of winter. He offered a faint smile. We don't. But when you're not a Marine anymore, there's not much to take a vacation from. She turned to face him, eyes narrowing. You're homeless. He met her gaze without flinching. Temporarily. The silence between them stretched until Richard entered, leaning on his cane. Claire, he said quietly, you don't have to like it. But kindness doesn't cost a thing. Her shoulders stiffened, but she nodded. Fine, he can eat. The meal was quiet, awkward, but real. The kind of silence that happens when people try to pretend they're not curious about one another. The girls, Ella and Sophie, filled the gaps with questions that made Ryan smile for the first time in months. Did you really jump out of airplanes? Were you scared of bombs? Did Daddy ever get hurt? Ryan's voice softened. Yeah, I jumped out of planes, and I was scared a lot. But brave people get scared too. They just keep going anyway. Claire's eyes flickered at that. Something about the way he said it, the calm in his voice, the truth behind it, seemed to reach a part of her she'd buried after losing Daniel. When dinner ended, she stacked the plates, keeping her back to him. "There's a guest room down the hall. Fresh sheets. I don't want my daughter seeing you on the couch in the morning." Ryan nodded. "Understood." But as he turned to go, one of the girls, Sophie, tugged his sleeve. "Uncle Ryan, can you read to us before bed? Grandpa says you tell the best stories." He froze. His throat tightened. It had been years since anyone asked him for that. Claire hesitated, torn between pride and decency. "Girls, it's fine," Ryan interrupted softly. "If it's okay with you." Her lips pressed into a thin line. Then, after a moment, "One story." Upstairs, the two little girls curled under their blankets, while Ryan sat at the edge of the bed, the lamp casting a soft glow across his tired face. He told them about a soldier who carried a broken compass, but always found his way home. Not because of the stars, but because he never stopped believing home still existed somewhere. By the time he finished, both girls were asleep, their small hands clutching his sleeve. For a long while, he just sat there, listening to the rhythm of their breathing. Downstairs, Claire waited at the bottom of the staircase. Her expression softened when he descended quietly, her usual edge replaced by something unsure. "They like you," she said quietly. "I don't know why, but they do." Ryan offered a tired smile. "Kids see things adults forget how to." She folded her arms, studying him. "You're not staying on the streets tomorrow. Not with that weather coming." His brows furrowed. "You already did more than I deserve." "I'm not doing it for you," she said sharply. "I'm doing it for them. They've been smiling all night because of you." That cut deep. Kindness hidden behind steel. But Ryan didn't argue. He just nodded, gratitude flickering in his tired eyes. "Then I'll earn my keep." "How?" she asked skeptically. "I'll fix things," he said simply. "That generator outside? It's one storm away from giving out. I can tell by the hum." She blinked. "You noticed that in 5 minutes?" He shrugged. "Old habit. Marines don't like surprises." That night, as she watched him from the window, repairing the backup generator under the snow, she realized something unsettling. She wasn't just letting him stay out of pity. Something about his quiet resolve, his gentleness despite everything, reminded her what decency looked like. And for the first time in years, Claire Matthews wondered if maybe her heart wasn't frozen after all. By dawn, the blizzard had swallowed the whole neighborhood. Wind howled through the trees, rattling the shutters like the house itself was shivering. Ryan was already awake, his sleeves rolled up, tools spread across the mudroom floor. The generator hummed now, steady and strong, his kind of music. Claire appeared behind him, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "You've been out there all night," she said quietly, placing one beside him. Her tone had changed, less CEO, more human. He rubbed his hands together, steam rising from the mug. "Couldn't sleep. Figured I might as well earn breakfast." A faint smile tugged at her lips. "You already did more than that. We'd have lost power hours ago." For a while, they just stood there, listening to the wind and the faint laughter of the girls upstairs. Then Claire's voice softened. "You didn't tell me what happened to you after the Marines." Ryan's jaw flexed. He looked out the window, his reflection ghosted against the glass. "I came home to an empty house. My wife, she couldn't handle the waiting. Moved on while I was still overseas. Sold everything before I even got back. I started doing odd jobs. Then the bills caught up. Then the debt." He gave a hollow laugh. "Now, here I am, knocking on the doors of people I used to protect." Claire's chest tightened. You don't deserve that. He looked at her then, really looked at her. No one deserves it. But life doesn't care about what we deserve. It just keeps testing what's left of us. There was a silence between them that felt heavy and honest. And then, suddenly, the lights flickered. The storm outside roared louder, followed by a sharp pop from upstairs. "Mom!" one of the girls screamed. Claire bolted up the stairs, Ryan on her heels. The smell hit them first, smoke. One of the bedroom heaters had sparked against the curtains, flames crawling up the fabric. Claire grabbed a blanket, trying to smother it, coughing as the smoke thickened. "Get the girls out!" Ryan shouted, voice steady, commanding. Claire hesitated. "What about go?" She obeyed, scooping both daughters into her arms, rushing down the stairs. Ryan tore the blanket from her and stomped down on the flames until his boots sizzled. His lungs burned, his eyes stung. But he didn't stop until the last ember died under his heel. By the time he made it outside, coughing hard, Claire was kneeling in the snow with her girls clinging to her. Their wide eyes found him through the fog of smoke. "Uncle Ryan!" they cried, running toward him. He dropped to one knee, catching them both in his arms, the weight of them grounding him. For a moment, it didn't matter that his hands were blistered or that the cold cut through him again. They were safe. That was all that mattered. Claire approached slowly, eyes glistening. You could have died up there." He tried to smile. Wouldn't be the first time someone said that. But then her composure broke. Tears filled her eyes, and her voice cracked. "Don't joke about that. Not after everything." Ryan blinked, taken aback. "Claire." She shook her head, stepping closer, her hand trembling before she finally placed it against his cheek. "You saved my family. Again. I don't even know how to thank you." "You don't have to," he said softly. "Just live. Be the kind of person Daniel would be proud of. That's thanks enough." Her breath hitched at her late husband's name. "You talk about him like you still see him." Ryan looked up at the gray morning sky. "In a way, I do. Every time I protect someone he loved, I feel like he's standing right there, reminding me who I am." The girls hugged him tighter, their small hands clinging to his jacket. Claire knelt beside them, her arm wrapping around all three. The storm was still raging, but for the first time in years, the Matthews home didn't feel cold anymore. Later that afternoon, when the smoke had cleared and emergency crews checked the damage, Richard Matthews stood beside his daughter-in-law, watching Ryan quietly help the workers move debris. "You know," the old man said, "your company's been looking for a new head of security, someone who actually knows how to protect what matters." Claire followed his gaze, eyes soft. "You think he'd take it?" Richard chuckled. "I think he already has. He just doesn't know it yet." That evening, as the last bit of snow melted from his jacket, Claire approached Ryan with a hesitant smile. "You've been through enough storms. You shouldn't have to face the next one alone." He frowned. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," she said carefully, "there's a permanent room here, and a job, if you want it. Head of security for Horizon Tech. Full benefits, steady pay, and—" She smiled faintly. "A family that already seems to adore you." Ryan's throat tightened. "Claire, I can't—" "Yes, you can," she interrupted softly. "You've given enough, Ryan. Let someone give back for once." He looked at her for a long time, then at the girls, waving at him from the living room. Something inside him finally eased, the restless ache that had followed him since the day he left the battlefield. "All right," he said quietly, nodding. "But I don't take handouts." She smiled through tears. "Good. Then consider it a mission. As the girls ran to hug him again, Ryan glanced at the doorway he had knocked on just one night earlier. The same door that had felt like the end of everything now felt like a beginning. For the first time in years, the soldier, the father, the man was finally home.